Planning for internal processing and external processing as material assignment to the activities, yeah, external activities are services. Now we'll see how to monitor or a tracking of these things. So we'll start with progress tracking. Progress tracking enables to closely monitor the progress of network components by tracking self-defined events. These events used in progress tracking are either predefined as standard events in customizing or can be defined in the application. For examples of events such as order confirmation, approval, delivery, export documents, goods receipt, and shipping advice. The progress tracking can be executed for different objects: network components, purchase orders. The respective object is called a progress tracking object. So in the progress tracking, how can I monitor these processes will take place, and the processes are order confirmation, accept, shipping advice, delivery, goods issue, export, documents. So in the two objects, network components, purchase orders, the different transactions will be used. The transactions will be COM, PXPD or AXPD and EXPD. Customizing settings, selection screens, field selections within progress tracking. In addition to project system, progress tracking can be used in material management to monitor the progress of purchase orders. Progress tracking is used to analyze a project that has components assigned. Each individual component can be assigned an event scenario or several individual events. The dates of the events are either manually planned or scheduled using a scenario. Now the actual evaluation can start, which automatically notifies of variances. In the final step, the event dates are updated. Progress tracking is an interactive process. The individual steps are therefore repeated until the material has eventually been procured. The dates of events are saved each time we exit progress tracking. So if we consider a network component scenario, starts with create project with components. Then we create scenarios as events. Then we schedule the events and scenarios, then analyze the events, finally mask changes. So progress tracking is used to analyze a project that has components assigned. Each individual component can be assigned an event scenario or several individual events. The dates of the events either manually planned or scheduled using a scenario. Now the actual evaluation can start, which automatically notifies of variances. In the final step, the event dates are updated. Progress tracking is an interactive process. The individual steps are therefore repeated until the material has eventually been procured. The dates of events are saved each time we exit progress tracking. So here, if you see the prerequisites, we have to decide which object is required to be analyzed. Then create a progress tracking profile, create standard events, and create event scenarios. Then finally, the procedure starts. Call up the relevant transaction, fill out the selection screen, select components or purchase orders based upon the object used, assign events or a scenario, manual dates processing or a scheduling, evaluation, and final dates updation. So progress tracking has two selection screens that we work through one after the other. In the first selection screen, we determine the selection of components for which progress tracking is to be carried out. To do this, we enter projects or networks that contain the required components. In the second selection screen contains all the material components that matched the selection criteria in the first stage. From this screen, we can now select the materials that we wish to analyze in progress tracking. It is from here the progress tracking itself starts. As a rule, a lot of components are listed in this selection. Select those that we want to look into now. We can return to the selection screen at any time to track other components. Progress tracking evaluates the dates of events that are assigned to network components. This assignment can be carried out in different ways: direct assignment of a standard event or generation and assignment of a new event. It is not a standard event. Assignment of an event scenario that contains standard events and relationships. Automatically, by assigning a scenario to a material group or using a body. So here we can see how the standard events and scenarios being assigned. So for the purchase order, request for quotation, evaluation of quotation, purchase order, approval, delivery, annuals, these are some standard events we considered, for example. Progress tracking allows to schedule the standard events of a scenario. This can either be triggered manually or automatically when progress tracking is executed. A prerequisite for scheduling is the use of standard events. A scenario, all three tables must be set up in the customizing beforehand. Manual scheduling. Select an individual standard event in the event overview, start the scheduling. A dialog box appears where we can define or temporarily modify the scheduling settings. After confirming the dialog box, scheduling is carried out. Automatically scheduling means if the automatic scheduling indicator in the event relationship table is set for an event in a scenario, scheduling is carried out automatically according to the setting in the progress tracking profile when progress tracking is called up. So if you see the scheduling part here, in the scheduling settings, we can see either planned or baseline dates, or it is a scheduling type, backward scheduling, forward scheduling, or backward to forwards, forward to backwards, like that. These settings we are using in the progress tracking. Progress tracking has its own interface for evolutions. It is called up from progress tracking. The evolution shows all of the data for a progress tracking object on one interface. This gives a better overview and also allows to compare and analyze in detail. The evolution interface is split into two areas. On the left, a tree structure shows the progress tracking objects. On the right, the related events including dates and variances are displayed. The variances are evaluated according to the settings in the progress tracking profile. So we can see the screen. Left side the object has been shown, at the right side the dates has been shown and the variances. Status information is used to provide information about individual components in a network or purchase orders. This information is assigned to the component as text. We can assign as many status nodes to a component as required. Each one is assigned to a status information category. This enables we to control who has access to the information. In the component overview, we can tell by way of an icon whether status information exists for a component. Status information has nothing to do with the status management in the network or a purchase order. So you can see the status node we are entering against a component. Customizing for progress tracking is very extensive and flexible. To carry out a simple test, all we need to do is set up a progress tracking profile. However, we want to use scheduling, then we also need standard events, scenarios, and event relationships with a scenario. All four tables are shown in the following. Like the customized setting for progress tracking are found in the customizing guide depending upon the progress tracking object, that is network components or a purchase order. In case of network components or a purchase order, we have to go to progress tracking, and either it is a purchase order or a materials network components. If you see the purchase orders, material management node, purchasing orders, and progress tracking, and it has profile, standard events, event scenario, event relationship with a scenario, priorities for events. And we have to do assignment of default scenario to a material group, status info types, number ranges, customer specific evaluations. In detail, the indicators for the profile: one is description, enter an explanatory short test, scheduling baseline, plan and forecast, specifies whether the respective dates are to be scheduled, and scheduling types like forward, backward, or forward to backward, backward to forward. So here, if we consider the backward determines with one event as a starting point, the system calculates the dates of the subsequent events. Only those events are scheduled that have the entry forward scheduling in the table event relationship for the scenario. For the forwards, in backward forward scheduling, start the scheduling backwards first, then schedule all event scenario for which indicator for backward scheduling is set. Then do not display variances can be set. Column display, here we can define which dates can be shown in the columns of the events overview. We can also maintain a layout in the application. So this is the customizing screen for the profile. Here we are setting for scheduling and variances, indicators, column display. These settings we are doing in the customizing. Event, we set for the number of, specifies the number of events, description, short description of the event, rank, specifies the sorting sequence of the events, display in the events, reference, defines whether and how a date can be referenced. So this is the event screen of the customizing. And the next in the events, after the events, next screen is scenarios. The scenarios that contains the number of scenario, then short test of the scenario, then calendar, the factory calendar we can use. Scenario that contains the number of the scenario at which the relationship refers. Preceding event, the first event in the relationship is specified, and AS, the indicator specifies this relationship is carried out during automatic scheduling. Subsequent event, the subsequent event in the relationship is specified. FW specifies that relationship is relevant to forward scheduling. BW, backward, specifies the relationship is which is relevant to backward scheduling. Time interval specifies the interval between the both events in work days. Reference specifies whether the time interval can be changed manually in the application. So we can see the scenario screen where we have entered the scenarios number, description, and selecting for automatic scheduling or not, and we are giving the subsequent scenarios and forward, backward, offsets, and reference points we are giving for this. Before starting for the progress tracking of a project, now we'll see the prerequisites of customizing settings in the customizing guide. So we'll go to SPRO, then here in the customizing implementation guide, we'll go to project system. In the project system, we have to go for progress. here in the progress tracking. In the progress tracking, we have to do the configuration settings like standard events, event scenarios, relationship, default scenario, and profile and priorities like this. Now we'll start with the standard events. Now these events we have to create for the purchase order object and network components. So we can do the event selection for the both objects. Now here we'll create the standard events for purchase order object. So we'll start with PS001 and the description we give as specification, and we can consider rank is 1. So this is 1 we have considered. Now this will be progress tracking. Similarly, we'll create some more events for the purchase order object. Now we'll create one more. This is PS002 and description will consider request for quotation and rank will be 2. Now we'll create two more, like giving the number 3, then description will be, you can say, evaluation of quotation and rank will be 3 will consider. Now the next one will be 4 and this description we consider as purchase order, rank will be 4. So similarly we can create some more, like after purchase order we'll go for approval. This will be 5. Then after approval we'll go for delivery. This is rank 6. And finally we consider as arrival at site and this is 7. So this is the events we have created for purchase order object. So we can see over here specification, request for quotation, evaluation of quotation, purchase order, approval, delivery, approval at site. So now we'll create the scenarios for the events. Now here we'll consider scenario will be progress tracking. And we consider 1. So this we have created for the event scenario for components. Now next thing, we'll select the combination. Now we can see the maintain relationship between events in a scenario. So the relationships will we consider like whatever events we have created and what will be the pre and what will be the substitution, like that. Now we have created the scenario like this, and this is the pre-event will be specification, and this is and one is here the preceding event and another one is subsequent event. Then we have to give automatic scheduling is required or not. Then this after automatic scheduling, then forwarding and forward scheduling or backward scheduling is required or not, and what is the relative offsets in days. Then finally we have to give data is referenced or not. So here for the specification, the subsequent activity will be after the specification will be request for quotation, and this is automatic scheduling, and forward and backward is possible. So 5 offset days will consider. Again for the scenario PS 0001, the preceding activity will select as request for quotation. So this is next thing is request for quotation. For the request quotation, then next step will be evaluation, again forward and backward, and this we can consider 10 offset days. Now again after evaluation the purchase order will be placed. Purchase order, for this also we consider back, this is again 10 offset days. After purchase order we'll consider the approval of the purchase order, approval backward and forward, we can say various approvals 30 days. And the next thing is after approval, next step will be delivery. This is also 2 offset days because this is an external activity. And after delivery, this is arrival at site. This is offset is 1 day we have considered. So this is we have created the relationships between events in scenarios. Now after that we have to do any default scenario to material group if required. So we are not specifically doing for any material group wise, so we can skip this one. Now we'll create the priorities for event, maintain the priorities for the event. So we'll simply consider 1 or 2 priorities, like 3 priorities we can consider, like critical and warning and information. And for the icon for the critical will be for critical, set another one, icon intensify critical, or we can say alert. Yes, alert, this alarm will be okay. Then for the warning, icon warning, then we consider information. So this is for the information. So we have created priorities for events. Now we'll see the profile, progress tracking profile. This is the main profile for doing the progress tracking. So we'll go to the progress tracking, new entry, then this will be, we'll give again PS 01 and description will be progress tracking PS, and we consider for the plan, then forward and backward, and we can consider column display baseline and plan and actual dates. Plan to baseline, okay. Forward to baseline is okay. Actual to baseline will also okay. And forecast to plan, this will be warning. Then actual planned is greater than baseline, that is okay. Forecast is greater than baseline, that is also okay. Actual is greater than baseline is okay. Forecast is greater than planned is a warning. Actual is greater than the planning. Now this is the alert. So this is the profile we have created for the progress tracking. Now we'll go for the next setting. We'll go for the next setting is status for info types. Yes, we need to inform the different statuses like information to info for project manager, and the next one we can consider info for purchaser, and the next one is general information. We can consider general information. So these are all to be displayed in the progress tracking. This information will be displayed. The next thing, after doing this default status info, now we'll go to the next setting, that is number ranges for this status information. Number range status information. Here we'll see any number ranges are by default are available or not. None of are available, so we'll create one number range 0 1 1 2 3 4 5. This will be okay. 7 digits, 8 digits. So again this will up to, we can consider all 9s, 3 4 5 6 7 8. So this number range we are considering for the status information. After doing the number range for progress, progress tracking, we'll see any other settings. Now we'll go back to user defined evaluation, no, and settings for work breakdown structure, the same thing. Define standard events for work breakdown structures, event scenarios, process event relations, same thing we need to create here also, and settings for accordingly networks. So for the moment we will continue with the events and scenarios for the purchase order. Similarly we can create for the WBS and networks also. So now we'll see which will go to a project CJ20N project builder. So this is the project we consider. So the project U300 3000.1401 for this we'll check what are the purchasing components are there, for which we can check the progress. Now this is a project. In this project we already done the internal processing and external processing, and we have considered many components assigning to the activities, and in the external processing we have created external activities and services. Now we'll see the progress tracking at the planning stage, how it look like. So we'll go to the progress tracking transaction, the standard menu, logistics, project system, then progress. In the progress tracking, here progress tracking for WBS, progress tracking for networks. Now we have done for this. So our profile will be this, and project we consider the same U3000.1401. Then if required we can select the further parameters, and we can consider plan greater than baseline, this and this. We are considering everything, and we are executing for the progress tracking at the planning stage. U3000.1401, because this is not in the, we are not reached to execution phase, so we'll select only. Now these are the materials are considered for the purchasing, for the procurement process. So we'll select and we'll go to progress tracking stage. So it will bring the progress tracking for the component selection, selected components. So now this is the list what we have received, and based on these events for these particular materials, now still since it is in the planning stage, no purchase order has been created, even purchase requisition also not created. so we'll not get any details over here at the moment. Now once the execution phase has been started, we can see the progress tracking for this components or PRPOs in the system. So this is a setting for the progress tracking and checking the list of components considered for the progress tracking. Now we'll see what are the other functionalities are available over here in the progress tracking. So we'll go to the again standard menu, logistics, project system, progress, then progress tracking. Here similarly we can see for work breakdown structure and networks, progress determination. This is, we can check once it has been started. Then progress analysis workbench. Progress analysis workbench comes under progress analysis. So progress tracking point of view, we can see the progress tracking and progress tracking for WBS element, progress tracking for networks. So we can check it out the same once it comes into the execution phase. Now we'll see the next tool for the analysis and tracking purpose.